This is exactly the spark our New York Mets needed. You see on your screen Juan Soto when he was really bad. Well, he is so back. Our 15-year, $765 million sports-breaking contract guy is back, and his contract is finally paying off. Welcome back to Mets Digest, everyone. I'm your host today, Mike Duda. As always, please do me a favor. Let me know what you think. Drop your opinions down below in the comments. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch today's video. Juan Soto has been red hot in the month of May. He is so back. Let's go ahead and dive right on into this. So you see here the statistics for the month of May. I apologize that the OPS is cut off, but I mean, a 1.4 plus OPS. You can tell that that's pretty dang good. So he has been red hot since the start of May. You see the statistics here. I'm going to return to that in just a moment because we are going to see what our first person of the day says, and that is Dan Martin of the New York Post. He said he didn't get his first home run at Citi Field until the Mets' most recent game in Queens on May 1st. Now, this article is about a day or two old, so obviously last night's game against the Cubs was their most recent game at Citi Field, but this is referring to the game on May 1st. Perhaps that was what Soto needed to find his spark, a spark that has nearly always been there throughout his career. Now, not only is Dan Martin referring to one home run that Soto hit on the night of May 1st, he hit two home runs that night, which really helped to spark this fantastic May as we return back. So this is really where the streak started. He finished his ice-cold streak at the end of April and began that red-hot streak here to begin the month of May. You see there 2 for 3 with 2 home runs, 2 RBIs, and was also hit by a pitch that night against the D-backs before hitting the road for St. Louis, back to Arizona, and then last night's great game against the Cubs. So enjoy the stats as you will, and I will read off some of this just ludicrous hitting from Juan Soto. 11 of 30, that is good for a 367 average here in the month of May. 7 extra base hits, including 5 home runs. So only 2 doubles, and he's got 7 extra base hits. 5 homers, that's incredible over the course of 8 games. He also has 7 walks, all this in 37 plate appearances. He took his season OPS plus up to 155. Keep in mind, the league average is 100, so he is 55 OPS plus points better than the average MLB player, and that is only going to increase from here because I truly believe that he hit the spark that he needed with those 2 home runs at Citi Field, and he is back. He is the Juan Soto that we all wanted and that we have all been requesting for over a month. He also took a 752 OPS into that game against Arizona, and you see at the end of the Arizona game an 822 OPS. He increased his OPS by 70 points by hitting the 2 home runs in 3 ABs and also getting hit by a pitch. And then you see after the most recent game against the Cubs, an 891 OPS entering play today. So he has a chance to get that OPS up to 900, which is awesome. Now the question is, why was Juan Soto so bad to begin with? We'll ask an area league scout here who said, quote, "People forget that he's human. He's locked in so often for so long, it just might have taken some time to do it this year. But Mendoza was right not to worry or do anything drastic. This is the Soto we all expect and have seen for a long time." Simply put, he's human. He's going to have some times where he's shaky, and it just so happened to be that he was shaky to begin his Met career. It's unfortunate, but it's part of baseball. Sometimes people are not that good at certain times. You can't be great at all times. I mean, Soto was last year, but you can't expect that year in and year out. You can't expect Juan Soto to be a top 3 hitter in baseball for every single day of 15 consecutive years. There's going to be some times where he hits a cold streak, and unfortunately, the timing wasn't great. He hit the cold streak early and at the beginning of his Met contract. Oh well, whatever. No one should have hopped off that Juan Soto bandwagon. No one should be hopping on the Juan Soto bandwagon, I should say. Everyone should have just supported him throughout the month. I know he got some boos at Citi Field, but it's bound to happen. He is so good and just so talented that he is bound to hit well. And you see it here with the hot streak here in the month of May. The next thing that we got to go over, how bad really was he? He definitely wasn't good. His lowest average was 221 back on April 17th, which is really bad, especially when you consider him to be a top 3 hitter in the sport. A 221 average, definitely not good. A putrid April, as you see on the bottom of your screen there, a 232, 347, 701 slash in 99 ABs. Keep in mind, the league average for OPS is 750, so he was a below average hitter. He only had 2 home runs, 10 RBIs, and 6 doubles. The one good thing about him at all times, even when he's not hitting well, is that he draws walks. He drew 18 walks in the month of April, which is pretty good. A little less than a walk a game. I would say if I had to do rough calculations, maybe 0.75 walks per game, which is good. It means he's walking a majority of the time. He's still getting on base, and that's important because getting on base is the way that you generate runs. You need runners in order to get on base, unless you hit a homer, but I'm someone that doesn't like to rely on the home runs. Granted, Soto's been really good, and he's been hitting those home runs. But anyway, he definitely wasn't good, like I said, but he really wasn't that bad. I think he was a little overhyped, per se, that he was so bad because of how good he is and because of that large contract that he signed, that massive contract that he signed. People were expecting just sheer greatness. And when he came out as an average MLB player to start the season, people weren't that happy. Now, he had a great first series. That first home run in Game 2, I was really excited. For a while, and you can see this in my videos, for a while I was saying him, Pete, and Lindor were the only ones that were hitting. You look at that series against the Astros, he looked great, and he had a good 4 days in March. But as bad as he's been in the month of April, he hasn't been so bad overall. A 752 OPS was the lowest OPS throughout the entirety of this season. That was the day before the streak started on April 30th when it was 752. So 2 points above league average. He was still above league average in OPS. And people were saying he was just so bad, terrible, putrid, all that. His OBP never dropped below 356. That was on April 26th. And then besides the 333 slugging after Game 1, because he just went 1 for 3 with a base hit, a 378 slugging percentage was the lowest of Juan Soto's season. So overall, Juan Soto really wasn't that bad to begin the season. He had a bad April. It is what it is, but he is definitely back, as you can see, from the 5 home runs this month and the above 360 batting average and that OPS that's 1.4 plus over the month of May. Overall, I think this very well could be a situation that we saw last year with Francisco Lindor in 2024. He had a terrible start to the season, needed a spark. For Lindor, it was going up to the leadoff spot last year. I think that spark is the first Citi Field home run for Juan Soto. Now I believe he feels truly comfortable. He's a Met. He's ready to be a Met, and he is going to lead this team, and I think he's finally back. And I'll gladly take any season that we had from Francisco Lindor last year in the sense of Juan Soto. I mean, Lindor was the runner-up for MVP, and if it wasn't for Shohei Ohtani going 50-50, I think Lindor would have been the clear-cut MVP. So if we had to deal with a bad month of Juan Soto and the Mets are still winning baseball games and they're still 11 games above 500, and now you get an MVP caliber Juan Soto, I think this team is perfectly fine and they are in great shape. So with that, let me get back to a little bit more of the comments that I have yet to get to on my Kyle Finnegan video. So the first batch of comments that we have today in relation to the Kyle Finnegan video and those trade rumors that I've talked about a couple of times. First is they don't need him. I disagree with that because especially when you look at the A.J. Minter injury and all of these injuries from the bullpen, the Mets bullpen is getting shallower and shallower, and the starting pitching, like it is in the MLB, just isn't going deep enough. The Mets need a bullpen to support that great starting pitching staff in order to continue to win ball games and be such a dominant force and overthrow the Dodgers and other really, really solid teams like LA. So I think the Mets could definitely use him. Next thing here is get rid of Buto. He's terrible. I think Jose had a couple of bad games, don't get me wrong, but I think he'll turn it around. I really think he's a solid pitcher out of the bullpen. I think he found his niche when he went into relief instead of being a starting pitcher. I think it'll just take a little bit of time, but Buto will be fine. Last thing for this batch is that Diaz was a bad signing since he came over. He's overrated. The 2022 season definitely does not support that comment, but outside of it, I can definitely understand it. The Mets signed him to about a $100 million overall contract, and he's definitely not performing to that level. So I can understand why you think it would be a bad re-signing and a bad trade to begin with, but he's not a bad reliever. He's just not the best in the closing role. I think if the Mets could go find a closer like Kyle Finnegan, they would be in really, really good shape. Next batch of comments here. Mike, I do hope you are right. We need relief pitching all of a sudden after a great start for the now injured bullpen. This is exactly what I'm saying and why we should go out and get Kyle Finnegan. We're hurt and the bullpen just isn't necessarily so dominant anymore because of those injuries. I think Finnegan would be a great addition in addition to going out and getting a lefty, perhaps if Brooks Raley is not available by the trade deadline. Next thing here is by Miguel. Not worth it. It would be enormously expensive, especially within the division. Don't see Stearns giving away a plethora of prospects for Finnegan. And as a bleed blue and orange Mets fan who always keeps his eye on the future as much as the now, I share what I believe is also the approach of David Stearns. I think that's definitely Stearns' approach, but I don't see the Nationals asking for top prospects. I think you might have to give up a couple of decent pieces, but I don't see a haul being a requirement to go out and get Finnegan because the Nationals will be out of it by the trade deadline, and they're looking to get rid of a guy who's definitely not re-signing with them next year. The question is, do you want to just let the guy go and get nothing in return, or do you want to get something in return via a trade? I think that's the Nationals' philosophy, and that's why I think Stearns will pull the trigger, or could pull the trigger, because I don't think the haul in return is going to be that big. Last comment of the day here is the time to bolster the pitching staff was at the trading deadline and during free agency. After that, the rest is just fake news and fake rumors. Well, trade deadline hasn't happened yet. That's in a couple of months from now. I know we didn't do as much as I necessarily would have liked in free agency. I definitely think AJ Minter was a great addition via free agency. They could have done a little more, but there's still plenty of time before the trade deadline to get something done and beef up this bullpen. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have for you today. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for taking the time to go watch this video. The point of today's video is Juan Soto is so back. I think he's going to go back to his MVP caliber self, and it's a great time, as always, to be an amazing fan. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, let's go Mets.